Welcome back, everybody, to the NCAA Next Up Dynasty here on NCAA Football 14. Today we will be continuing with the Season 4 College Football Playoff as we go through the second round games. In the last episode, we saw our bracket and we kicked off the first round. In case you missed that episode, make sure to check out the series playlist. But right now we are down to 8 teams after our first round games. We had some very interesting results, including TCU continuing their hot streak, upsetting Notre Dame. Auburn and Cal were able to get nice wins. And of course, the game of the day, USC against Tennessee. USC led that game by 3 scores with 4.5 minutes to go. Tennessee stormed all the way back. They took the lead with about 30 seconds left. And of course, USC had a game-winning field goal to take back the win. So we are now down to 8. And as I look at these 4 matchups we have today, there's something in common here. All 4 of these teams are either currently in-conference rivals or were in the same conference at one point in this series. We've got Ohio State against USC, 2 Big Ten teams who played against each other last year in the playoff. We've got Washington and California, 2 teams who know each other very well these last few years with conference championships. And, of course, a big matchup this year. Florida and Auburn, rematch of the SEC championship from this season. And then Texas Tech and TCU, while they're no longer in the same conference, they were both in the Big 12 a couple of years ago. And if nothing else, they are still geographical rivals. So all 4 of these matchups, these teams know each other and they don't really like each other. So I think that's going to prove to be really fun as we narrow down to our final 4 today. Usually I like to save best for last, but I think we're going to switch it up and we're going to start with a bang. California versus Washington in the Rose Bowl for the first matchup of the day. When we initially made the bracket, the top right region with Washington and Cal really stood out to me. I genuinely believe these are 2 of the top 3 teams in the country along with Ohio State, and I think both of these squads kind of got screwed over because they have to play against each other in the tournament earlier than they should. We will start with Cal, who has made it to the college football playoff for a 3rd consecutive season. In each of the last 2 seasons, they have made it to the second round and have not gotten out. Could this be the year they finally do? They only lost 1 game this year, that being to Washington, funny enough, and Cal's looking for revenge. Cal does still have the upper hand above Washington in this series. They won the conference championship over Washington in both seasons 2 and 3, both in very humiliating ways. In season 2, they had the crazy comeback, and in season 3, they were up by 30 at halftime. So I still feel like Cal does have the edge in the rivalry, but losing to Washington this year should give them an extra chip on their shoulder. They certainly do not want to have their only 2 losses being to the same team. Can Cal finally get over the hump and make it to the Final 4? On the flip side, we had the Washington Huskies playing in their very first playoff game ever in this series. Washington is the only team to still be undefeated. They have not lost a game all season long. They have steamrolled through their competition, and I genuinely believe these guys are a legitimate contender for the national championship. The Pac-12 was a better conference than it has been in the past, with many good teams. Obviously, Cal being one of them. Washington beat Cal on the road. As we talked about with Cal having a chip on their shoulder here, I think Washington does as well. Even though the Huskies beat Cal this year, as I said, I still think Cal has the upper hand on the rivalry thanks to the 2 consecutive Pac-12 championship wins. So Washington really has a lot to prove here. They have never made it to a playoff in this series. Not only are they here this year, but they are one of the best teams, if not maybe the best team in the entire field. So they really have a lot to prove here in my opinion, and I think they are more than capable of doing it. When I started this series up back in August, I was really excited to see so many fun storylines and continue along with some of the classic college rivalries like Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, and Auburn. But I think the best rivalry that has formed through this series has to be Washington and Cal. We've had some really crazy matchups between these 2 teams on really high stages, and I think this will be the peak of the mountain of the Cal and Washington rivalry. A Finals 4 spot is on the line between Cal and Washington. As I mentioned earlier, I think both of these teams got kind of screwed over in terms of seedings because two teams this good should not be playing against each other in the second round. Washington will open up with the ball as on 3rd and 9, the pass is intercepted. Roscoe Jenkins-Cole with his 7th interception of the year, and Cal forces a quick turnover. Not exactly the first playoff pass that Washington was open for. Cal would move a little bit down the field. They would tack on 3 points with a field goal, and so they're now on the board as it's 3-0. Not exactly setting the tone for Washington, but they would respond on their next drive with a read option touchdown from senior quarterback Kai Suggs-Gardner. KSG has had a really solid season under center here for Washington, certainly improving his draft stock. Following possession, it's a 4th and 2, and they would get it. Jason Thornburg gains around 3. Thornburg may be the second-string running back, but he's very good in his own way, over 1,000 yards on the ground this year. The starting running back, Ben Bones, will lose 3 on 3rd and 1, wrapped up by Kellen Nicholson. So Washington is unable to take a 2-score lead. Instead, they will have to settle for a quick field goal, looking to make it a clean 7-point lead, and they will do just that. So Washington's now ahead 10-3. I really want to see the Cal offense wake up. We know this is a talented unit, but the only points today have been pretty much off of a turnover. 3rd and 6, Marquise Harris dances in the pocket, and he is rocketed down for a loss of 7. Wrapped up by Colton Denson. Big play for the Husky defense, and they will stop Cal. They'll be able to hold on to the lead. Cal will tack on 3, however, making it 10-6. So Washington will get the ball back. They would do nothing. And then Cal now with an opportunity to take the lead back, and they will. Tim Howard with the score off the pitch. Tim Howard is another great backup running back, and it's 13-10. Washington gets it back late in the half. Good throw over to Boris Reynolds, who brings it to the 30. Good pass by Kai Suggs-Gardner, who's really starting to find a little groove for himself after a slow start with the interception. Couple plays later, 2nd and 9. Suggs-Gardner goes downfield. It's Boris Reynolds again. Touchdown, Washington. The Huskies take the lead late in the first half with a dime from Kai Suggs-Gardner over to Boris Reynolds. Cal will get it back. Harris looks to take a shot downfield, and it is intercepted to wrap up the first half by Darius Jackson. Pretty exciting game so far. Washington leads 17-13. I think we could be looking at another really exciting ending, like the regular season matchup this year or the Season 2 Pac-12 Championship. Cal with the ball early, looking to set the tone here in the second half, and they will not. Harrison Myers, the Heisman candidate, loses 4. So Washington gets the stop. They'll get it back on offense. On 3rd down, Kai Suggs-Gardner goes downfield. It's caught by Biletnikoff winner, Racer Fox. He's in for a score, and Washington leads by 2 possessions. The Huskies are now starting to build up a little bit of a lead, and Cal's going to have to respond. On 3rd and 11, Marquise Harris takes a shot downfield, and it's caught by Self 2. He'll make it all the way to the 15. A huge play for Cal. They needed that one. They can't let Washington take a big lead. On 3rd and goal, Harrison Myers will punch it in, and we've got ourselves a ball game once again. Cal would surprisingly go for the extra point, which is a weird call to me because they could have made it a 3-point game with the 2-point try, but okay, whatever. Washington gets it back. Kai Suggs-Gardner with a dime on 1st down, connecting with Torque Raleigh for a gain of 32. Raleigh's had a really good game as the kick returner, consistently giving Washington good field position. The Huskies with another chance to make it a 2-score game, but it is intercepted! Duke Adsden picks it off! What a huge play for the Cal defense. Washington was about to get a pretty big lead back, and it's all for naught. That play might have just saved California. They could not have afforded to go back down by 11. Cal's got to take advantage of this opportunity, and they do not. Keandre Kyle III only gains 6. So Washington forces the turnover. They'll get it back, and the Huskies have pretty good field position. Kai Suggs-Gardner on the option with a break run. Gets by a defender. KSG is still on his feet, and he brings it to the 5. What a play by Kai Suggs-Gardner. This kid, he is special. Into the 4th quarter now, 1st and goal. Kai Suggs-Gardner under pressure, and he is sacked. If Cal can hold Washington to a field goal, that'd be a big deal. On the flip side, if Washington can still score a touchdown, make it a 2-score game, they'll be sitting pretty. Third and goal. KSG looks to throw it, and he is intercepted! Are you kidding me? The California Golden Bears not only pick it off, but they're going to take it the entire length of the field. A pick six, and Cal takes the lead here in the fourth quarter. Markeith Johnson with the interception. That's 2 turnovers in the red zone for Washington. If you take one of those turnovers off, the Huskies probably had this game won. Third and 14. Big play after the catch by the freshman tight end, Brandon McTaggart, for the first down. Washington would be able to position themselves into field goal range, and we are now tied up at 27. This game really coming down to it. Which team will be able to hold on here to end the fourth? Cal has the ball, third and 5. Harris with a short screen for Harrison Myers, and he's going to go backwards for a loss of 1. Washington with a big stop, and now they've got a shot to potentially win the game. 27-27, not a lot of time left on the clock. Under 2 to go. On first down, good throw over to Johnson, and he will gain 17 yards. Bobby Johnson with the first down off the pass by Kai Suggs Gardner. Following play for Washington, KSG with a strike to the corner, and it's caught by Racer Fox at the 5. Big play for Washington. Now can they punch it in? Yes, they do. Darwin Judkins is in for the score, and it's now 34-27. Cal is going to have one more opportunity to keep themselves alive. On third down, it's Eberle Keltstan with the catch, and he will take it for a house call. 74-yard touchdown, and Cal ties it up. What a fourth quarter of this game. We'll see if Washington can win it in regulation. Final play of the fourth. It's a short pass caught for a gain of about 10 by Reynolds. Obviously not enough to really do anything of substance. And so we are going into overtime. This is the first overtime playoff game of the year. Washington will get the ball, and they will start off strong. A quick touchdown for Darwin Judkins. That's his second. So the Huskies are on the board first here in OT. California's going to have to answer, and they will. Nice quick touchdown for the Golden Bears, and we are knotted up at 41. It's A.J. Wilson who makes the play. Into the second overtime. Third and 5. Short screen is caught, but not enough for the first down. So Washington is able to get the stop. Cal's going to have to kick here. They should be able to take the lead, but now Washington's in a position where a touchdown can win them the game. We'll see if they can clutch up as the field goal is good. Washington has it on the goal line. They are literally inches away from ending this game. First and goal. Kai Suggs Gardner keeps it, trying to fight through contact, but he loses 3 or 4. Huge play for Cal, and now this really opens things up for the defense. Third and goal. Can Washington win the game here in double overtime? KSG under pressure, and he is going to be sacked. A monster stop by Javonte Knight, the biggest defensive play of the game. So Washington will look to kick it, and it looks like this game is going to be headed into a third overtime. The twist about the third overtime and beyond is whenever you score a touchdown, you have to go for 2. On third and 18, KSG with a shot downfield. It's caught for a score. Boris Reynolds with the touchdown. A big play on third and very long. I don't even know if Washington would have been in field goal range had they not gotten that. As for the 2-point try, it is intercepted in the end zone. So California allows the touchdown, but they get the stop. A touchdown and a 2-point conversion wins the game. We'll see if Washington's defense can make another play. Third and 8, it's a screen. How many screens has Cal ran today? It's been at least 10. Can we stop with the goddamn slip screens? Fourth and 9, game is on the line for Cal. If Washington gets a stop, they win. Short pass is caught, and it will go for a first down. Good play after the catch by Cal to keep things going. Second and 6. Marquise Harris with a strike in the back of the end zone. It's caught by Eberle Keltstan. Just a few plays ago, Washington could have won it on fourth down. And now Cal, with a 2-point conversion, can win the game. We'll see if they can get it. It's a pitch to the outside, and he will not get it. This game will need a fourth overtime. This game may never end as we are knotted up at 50 apiece. Not 49, not 51, a 50 piece. Cal will get to open up with the ball now. It is a third and 5, And god damn it, they're running a screen, and it actually works! A.J. Wilson is in for the touchdown. California takes the lead. Both teams missed their 2-point tries in the third overtime. Will Cal be a little luckier here in the fourth? Harris looks to throw it in the pocket. Incomplete. He does not get it. We've had some long college football games on this channel. I don't think we've had any go past the fourth overtime. So as Washington scores a touchdown here with Kai Suggs-Gardner, you'd think if history repeats itself, the Huskies should be able to end it here on the 2-point try. Will we finally get a 2-point conversion? Suggs-Gardner fighting for yards, and he does not get it. Both teams have scored touchdowns in the third and fourth overtimes, but they have not gotten any 2-point conversions. We will now move into a fifth overtime. 3rd and 2. Ben Bones loses 4. Big play for Cal, and so Washington's going to have to kick a field goal. So Washington is stopped, and now all Cal needs is a touchdown. They don't even need a 2-point conversion. Both of these teams have had opportunities to end this game with 2-point tries. 3rd and 9, another screen. God help me, it's a loss of yards for the Golden Bears, and so they will have to kick a field goal. They're unable to score a touchdown here. We are now knotted up at 59, and we will be going to a 6th overtime. My lord. 3rd and 14 for Cal. It's not a screen, but instead it's a run up the middle. Probably the one call that would have been worse than a slip screen. So Washington gets the stop. Cal kicks the field goal again. It's now 62-59. So now Washington has another chance to end the game. 1st and 10, handoff for Ben Bones. Bones stiff arms the defender with room. Touchdown, Washington! This game is finally over after 6 overtimes. The Huskies are moving on to the Final Four as they defeat Cal here in the Rose Bowl in the second round of the playoff. This has to be the game, not just of the year, but of the series. This rivalry was at the peak of the mountaintop today, and boy, did it not disappoint. I will say, the one thing that I don't really like with either of these teams is that they both had so many chances to win the game, whether it was a 4th down stop or a 2-point conversion or what. They had so many chances to finish off the job, and they didn't. Nonetheless, these two teams are totally awesome. Going into the game, I said that these are 2 of the 3 best teams in the country, and I think that point stands. These 2 teams are completely awesome. I think, obviously, with Cal losing, they really got screwed by having to play against Washington here in the second round. But, man, these 2 teams are unbelievable. Marquise Harris with a very solid game, did have a couple of interceptions. But for the most part, he was really solid in this one. Certainly not his fault that Cal lost. You can't really blame anybody for Cal. I mean, they're a really good team. I think they're the 3rd best team in the country. They just ran out of gas in the 6th overtime. The one big difference between these 2 teams, though, is the play calling, though, I will say. Cal's offensive play calling really held them back. They didn't run the ball all that well. I think had they ran it better or the play calling was better, they would have been able to win this game. So I feel like they did kind of shoot themselves in the foot a little bit in that sense. As for the Washington Huskies, I went into this game saying that these guys are legitimate contenders, and I was proven right. I will say Kai Suggs-Gardner had some very untimely interceptions, but other than that, he was really solid. This kid is a player, and Washington should be favored against the winner of the Florida and Auburn game to move on to the championship, and I think had Cal won, they would have been the favorite in that one as well. Washington ran the ball really well. Unlike Cal, their play calling was a little bit better than Cal, and I think that was ultimately the very slight difference in how they won this game. But nonetheless, a thrilling matchup through and through. The best game we have had in this series so far between 2 phenomenal teams. Got to give your hats off to Cal. I know it kind of stings that they're not going to get over the hump again, but Cal is a great team, and Washington just happens to be great as well. For our second game of the day, we will head down to the Orange Bowl. A rematch of this year's SEC Championship between the Auburn Tigers and the Florida Gators. Auburn is the 6th seed. Florida is the 3 seed. As we take a look at Auburn first, this team really fascinates me because they were undefeated for most of the year. but I feel like they're not playing their best ball. They got shut out late by a questionable Georgia team that really struggled in the SEC Championship against Florida, and they barely beat Navy in a fluky first-round matchup that really could have gone either way if not for weather conditions and turnovers. Despite that, this Auburn team has won 12 games this year, and there is still a lot to like about this roster. They've beaten some good teams, including Oklahoma, a playoff-caliber team, but they've been a little bit inconsistent down the stretch. Jet Jackson over the first half of the year was a Heisman candidate, but he really cooled off down the stretch. They do have an intriguing group of young players on the team with running back Gaffey and Quentin, who's very talented, and some good receivers led by senior Trayon Scott. I like what they've got defensively. In both games that we've watched them, their defense has been rather good. In their loss against Florida and their win against Navy, the defense performed very well, and they've got some ball players here, specifically pass rusher Cedric Cabral. As for the Florida Gators, they are in the same boat that Cal is. This is a team who's made the playoffs now 3 years in a row, but they haven't been able to get over the hump. The Gators have made the Final Four 2 years in a row and will look to potentially be the only team in this series to make the Final Four 3 times, and they can do that with a win today. Over the last 2 years, they have lost in the Final Four. Could this be the year for the Gators? It does feel like they're kind of due. They've beaten multiple playoff teams this year. They beat Tennessee on the road. They beat USC on the road. And they beat Auburn in the SEC Championship. They have beaten good teams this year. A reason why they have not been able to get over the hump has been the quarterback play. Their previous starting quarterback, Ernie Capellar, was a good regular season player who was not all that good in the playoffs. Can Deontay Harris change the narrative? As for the run game, Rudy Burns is really good. Richie Rhodes is talented as well, although Rhodes suffered an injury late in the SEC Championship game, and he will be out today for the Gators. So they'll be especially dependent on Burns, who was a little bit better than Rhodes throughout the season. They've got a good group of defensive players as well. It's a talented crew with a lot of future NFL pros. This Florida team, though, I don't feel like has been as good as they've been over the last couple of years. Last season, they were the best team in the country in the regular season. They got the #1 overall seed. And then the year prior, they were the highest ranked at-large team. They beat Ohio State in the playoff. I feel like this year's team doesn't have as much juice as the past couple of seasons, but it does feel like they're due, and they're playing with an extra chip on their shoulder. We'll see if they can beat Auburn for a second time and make the Final Four. So here we are at the Orange Bowl, a rematch of the SEC Championship between Auburn and Florida. Auburn's an intriguing team. They've had some ups and downs recently. This will be a massive win for them to get to the Final Four. And as for Florida, they'll look to make it for a 3rd straight season in quest of finally making the national championship. The Gators with it early. Harris is sacked on 3rd and long. A quick play for Jacob Jackson. Him and Cabral are one of the most talented defensive line tandems in the country. So Auburn will get the ball, looking to score early in this game as Jet Jackson keeps it on the option. Jackson breaks away, breaks another tackle, and gets it to around the 6. A big run here for Jackson, looking to improve his draft stock. He was so-so in the first-round game against Navy, as he'll keep it himself on the read option and is in for a touchdown. Auburn only scored 1 touchdown in the SEC Championship game against Florida. They've already got one here, and they lead at 7-0. Following Florida possession, we'll see if the Gators can do some damage as they've got a 3rd and 3. Play action fake. Deontay Harris on the run is incomplete. Harris starts the game off 1 for 6. He's not beating the Ernie Capellar allegations quite yet. Field goal try is up and good, so the Gators are on the board. It's now 7-3. Not a bad possession for Florida. They score some points, and Auburn has it back with a 3rd down and 1. Handoff up the middle for Gaffey and Quentin, the sophomore running back with blocks down the field. One man to beat, and he's going to beat him. Gaffey and Quentin is in. Touchdown, Auburn. The Tigers extend their lead with a huge run from Gaffey and Quentin. The Tigers with more touchdowns than they got in the SEC Championship game, as it is now 14-3, and the Gators need to respond quickly. Harris is sacked on the play for a loss of about 9. Ryan Parham brings it down. So far, this game has been all Auburn, something that I did not see coming at all. Following Tiger possession, it's intercepted. That's what the Gators needed to get back in the game, and they're going to take it for a house call. A pick six. And the Florida Gators are back on the board. What a play by Jalen Auguste Marcy with the score, and it's 14-10. A massive turnover for Florida. They'll get the stop on the following possession as Jet Jackson loses yards on the option. He's wrapped up by the All-American corner, Christian Banks. So now the Gators are starting to do something here. 2nd and 9. Deontay Harris looks to throw it. Short pass is caught, and that'll go for a first down to Rudy Burns, the running back, who of course has to take the full load today. Pause. 3rd and 3. Can Florida take the lead? Harris throws it away in the back of the end zone, incomplete. Good stop in the red zone by Auburn. They get the goal line stand. They're going to hold on to their lead. After a false start penalty, Florida would be yanked back 5 yards, and they would ultimately tack on 3. So it's a 1-point game. It looks like we might have ourselves another really good matchup. Auburn would get the ball back. They would drive all the way down the field. Their offense just looks so much more in sync than it did in both the SEC Championship and the first-round game against Navy. Jet Jackson is in for his 2nd rushing touchdown of the game, and Auburn is running wild. They're focusing on making plays on the ground, and boy, is it working. The Tigers are dominating up front in the trenches. They are now up 21-13, and they'll get the ball back late here in the 2nd quarter. Jackson's going to take a shot downfield. It's caught by Trayon Scott, and he is gone. Touchdown, Auburn. 64-yard score for Scott, and the Tigers have built themselves a nice lead. Going into halftime, it's 28-13. Auburn's got the momentum right now. With 2 big scores late in the first half, they're in the driver's seat, and they start with the ball in the 3rd quarter. Can the Tigers pull off the upset and make it to the Final Four? Short throw on 3rd and 9 will not get the first down. It's Branch with the reception. He only gains 5, wrapped up by the All-American safety, Victor Ridgewood II. So Florida gets it back. This is their opportunity to put themselves back in the game. Handoff for Rudy Burns. Cuts to the outside. Good run for about 12. Florida's got to set the tone on the ground. They have not thrown the ball overly well today. Deontay Harris has not looked super sharp. 3rd and 2. The Gators are going backwards. Curtis Williams loses 2. He's wrapped up by college football's Defensive Player of the Year, Cedric Cabral. Florida would elect to punt it. I would have considered being a little bit more aggressive. And now Auburn's going right back to the ground game. 24 yards for Gaffey St. Quentin, who has been a monster today. He's been the best player on the field. 3 minutes to go here in the 3rd. Auburn looking to make it a 3-score game and to potentially knock Florida out of reach. Man in motion. Handoff back for Gaffey St. Quentin. Another big run as he gains 20 more. The legend of Gaffey St. Quentin is being born right now. This kid is playing out of his mind. Remember, he is just a redshirt sophomore. 2nd and 10. Read option. Jet Jackson keeps it himself. That's a hat trick. His 3rd rushing touchdown of the game. 4th all-purpose score. This was a close game late in the 2nd quarter. Now it's not. Auburn is starting to run away with it. They'll tack on a field goal here early in the 4th to extend the lead. It's now a 4-score game, 38-13. Things are really not looking good now for Florida, who needs a miracle. We did see Tennessee have the crazy comeback against USC in the last round, but that was a once-in-a-generation type of comeback story. You can't expect Florida to do the same. Rudy Burns loses 3, wrapped up by Jacob Jackson. Does Florida go for it, or do they just wave the white flag and ultimately punt it? The Tigers will get it back. They would march down the field once more, looking to tack on some more insurance, and it's going to be another rushing touchdown for Jet Jackson. That's not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 rushing touchdowns for Jackson. Florida would march down the field here at the end of the game. They'll get a late rushing score from quarterback Deontay Harris, but it is not going to matter. The Auburn Tigers get revenge on Florida. They lost to the Gators in the SEC Championship, but they march back and dominate the Orange Bowl 45-20. This is the first game through the entire playoffs that I can say I was completely shocked about. I could not see Auburn coming into this game and just steamrolling Florida, and that's exactly what happened. This game was pretty close in the first half, but Auburn just slammed on the gas pedal, and they went off. Auburn ran the ball unbelievably well. 356 yards, 5 touchdowns. They dominated the trenches and they wore out the Florida defense. They just kept beating them and beating them and beating them. Whoa, pause. Jet Jackson was pretty good as a passer. He only threw 3 incompletions. Other than the Trayon Scott touchdown, he didn't have many wow throws. The impact that he made was on the ground with 4 rushing touchdowns. Gaffius and Quentin, 152 yards, 12.6 yards a carry. I really was not sold on this Auburn team going into the playoffs. I don't know if you guys were able to tell the way I've been talking about these guys, but I just wasn't really convinced they could make a run. And I have been proven wrong. This team is legit. I think they can absolutely win a national championship. Now, they're facing an uphill battle. They're facing off against Washington in the Final Four. That's going to be a tough matchup. As for Florida, Deontay Harris. I think Gator fans will be happy to see that he did not perform like Ernie Capellar in playoff games because he somehow found a way to perform even worse. He was not good today. 37% completion percentage, 1.1 yards a carry. He was abysmal. Another Florida quarterback who's so good in the regular season, and when the playoffs come, he wets his pants. Defense didn't do him any favors either, and I think if starting running back Richie Rhodes would have been healthy, the result would have been the exact same. Now we know that Washington and Auburn will face off in the Final Four for a spot in the national championship. Let's shift over now to the left side of the bracket as we will start with the Battle of Texas. We'll start with the TCU Horned Frogs, the lowest seed in the entire tournament. For most of the year, it looked like this team had no business making the playoff. They were nothing more than a mediocre team in the Big 12, but they won some games down the stretch. They upset West Virginia in the conference championship in the snow. And then they proved a lot to us, myself included, by upsetting Notre Dame in South Bend in the first round. After week 8, TCU had a record of 3-4. It looked like this team wasn't even going to make a bowl game, let alone get a playoff spot. But they won their final 5 regular season games along with the conference championship and their first round playoff game against Notre Dame. If they can beat the Fighting Irish on the road, they can beat just about anybody. Quarterback Tegan Yeager's had a tough time staying healthy, but he is healthy, and when he has played, this team has been significantly better. The Horned Frogs have championship DNA. This team won a national championship 2 years ago. They've still got some of the contributors on that team with guys like Harry Stewart in the backfield. They've got a great receiving core, and while their defense is not as good as it was 2 years ago, it's still pretty strong. JoJo Adiomola is the lone starter from the defense on the championship team who's still around, but they've got other really good players like Josh Parks, Ant Werver III, AJ Okiki, and others. As for Texas Tech, this is their first time in the college football playoff. They made it in as the Group 5 representative, winning the American Athletic Conference with a record of 12-1. Texas Tech was undefeated for much of the season, but they did look a little bit shaky towards the end. In their previous 3 games, they lost to UAB, they barely beat a questionable Rice team, and they trailed at halftime in the American Athletic Championship game to Boston College before turning up the heat in the second half. But there is a lot to like about this team, and it starts at the quarterback position with Heisman Trophy winner Yahya Marshall. I'm curious to see if he will be able to elevate his game and his team as the Heisman Trophy and being recognized as the best player in the country. Texas Tech has a good group of skill position players and some intriguing young defensive players, but you can argue on paper TCU's roster might be a little bit better, even if Texas Tech has had the better season and they had the better quarterback. So I think this could prove to be a more interesting game than people think. TCU is still certainly the underdog here, but if they can beat Notre Dame, they could beat Texas Tech in a neutral site. Will TCU continue the Cinderella run and make it to the Final Four? Or will Texas Tech continue to be able to shock the world and make it there as they play in their first college football playoff game in program history? It should be a fun one here at the Fiesta Bowl. It is worth noting that 2 years ago, TCU played in the semifinal game at the Fiesta Bowl during their championship run, and they beat Cal in what ended up being a pretty close game back when Cal was not as good as they are now. So Texas Tech will start with the ball, and they're going to start strong. Yahya Marshall's moving them down the field quickly. There's Amari Green for a gain of 16. Following play, 5 wide. Marshall alone in the backfield. He looks for the end zone, and he connects with I-8 Hector for the touchdown. A quick start for the Red Raiders. I know it's early, but Yahya Marshall looks really good. So TCU has the ball coming off their great performance on offense against Notre Dame. What a run from Tegan Yeager, breaking tackles. He's a big physical dude, and that's costed him some games this year due to being injured, but he's a tough player. Up the middle, Harry Stewart, breaking tackles, past the 15. Stewart was the starting running back 2 years ago as a sophomore when they won the national championship, and he was a lightning bolt within this offense, and he still is. 3rd and 3, handoff for Dylan Wiggins, and he does not get it. Good stop for the Red Raiders. You could argue TCU should go for it. It's 4th and 2. They're inside the 5, but they're going to play it safe. They're going to put points on the board, and they will make it a 7-3 ball game. I think at this stage in the game, you can't really argue with them kicking just to get some points and really make this a game early. Texas Tech has it back, 3rd and 9. Short throw for Dennis Lookaround, and he does not get the first down. Good stop by the Horned Frogs, and so they will get it back on offense. 3rd and 9. Yeager with a shot downfield, and it is well overthrown. Tegan Yeager is a really strong arm, sometimes a little too strong for his own liking. So Texas Tech will get it back. Here's Yahya Marshall up the middle, showing off his dual threat ability. Compared to some of the other top quarterbacks in the class, he is a slightly better runner, which could be why he ultimately ends up as the top quarterback off the board in a QB class that is projected to be pretty weak this year. Kick is good for Texas Tech. They wouldn't be able to score a touchdown here on this drive, but they would tack on 3, making it 10-3. Here's Harry Stewart, cuts to the left side. Big run for Stewart as he brings it past the 40. TCU's running the ball pretty well so far. Harry Stewart looks very good, but the passing game has been slow to get going. 2nd and 1. Yeager's going to run with it up the middle, and he loses the football. Texas Tech recovers. You could see that ball just slip right out of his hands. It wasn't like a super big hit or anything. The ball just simply fell out. Nice play by number 56. I believe that's TJ Jetson to get the ball away. As you can see, it was more so just because Yeager dropped it rather than any contact from the defender. Yeager was actually in the process of stiff-arming the Texas Tech defensive player. So the Red Raiders will get it back. They're up by 7. They can put themselves in a pretty good spot here if they manage this drive correctly. There's a good throw into the hands of Debo Campbell, who gets around 24 yards. Texas Tech can potentially get this game out of hand early if they continue to play smart football on both sides of the ball. They've got to make sure they can score here and don't turn over the football. It's intercepted by Josh Parks, the projected first-round corner in this year's draft, and he is off to the races, untouched with a pick 6. That, my friends, is foreshadowing, and TCU's back in the ball game as they tie it up at 10. Looks like this game's going to be interesting after all. A great play there by Parks, who's going to be drafted very high this coming April, and so we are knotted up at 10. Yahya Marshall's got a rebound after that, and his throw will be caught again by the other team. LaCara Vezel with the interception for TCU. That's not back-to-back possessions where Yahya Marshall has been intercepted. Not exactly a Heisman-esque moment. Very eventful first half as we are tied up at 10. It does kind of feel like TCU is starting to gain some momentum. I'm curious to see if they can keep it going as Harry Stewart is breaking through tackles. He does not want to go down. Harry Stewart may not be the biggest or the strongest or the quickest or even the fastest, but he is a tough physical runner who's not easy to bring down. 2nd and 4, Yeager with a strike as he connects with Mustafa Diabate, who gets it inside the 10. Nice play for TCU, now 3rd and goal. Dylan Wiggins, stiff arms run defender, stiff arms another. What a run for Dylan Wiggins. It's a TCU touchdown. Texas Tech read the play well. They had 2 guys to stop him, and nobody stopped him. Wiggins is doing his best Derrick Henry impression. Texas Tech back with it, and things continue to go south for them. On 3rd and 6, Dennis Lookaround only gains 3 on the screen. Josh Parks makes the play again. So TCU has it back. Harry Stewart once more with a big run. This guy is just as good as he was 2 years ago in TCU's title pursuit, really turning into a legend of this series. On 3rd and 3, the Red Raiders will stop Stewart. They needed that one badly. Nonetheless, TCU can still make it a 2-score game, though, with a field goal. They've scored 14 unanswered. We'll see if they can add 3 more points as the kick is up, and it is good. So TCU finds themselves in a nice spot. They're up by 10 points now. This is not your ordinary 12 seed. TCU is continuing to prove that they are one of the hottest teams in the country. Got to give credit to Yahya Marshall on that play, fighting for yardage, but he's unable to get it. Wrapped up by Ant Warver III, another future NFL player in the TCU defense. So the Horned Frogs get it back with another chance to extend the lead. Here's Mustafa Diabate breaking tackles. What a play for Diabate! Nearly gets the touchdown. He shoestring tackled it around the 20. That should not have even been a first down. Instead, it goes for a gain of 30. That's exactly how the past quarter and a half has been for TCU. Texas Tech gets another big stop, though. Wiggins does not get the first down. That's actually a really big play for Texas Tech. Had TCU been able to score a touchdown on that drive, they could have made it a 3-score lead. Still an uphill battle for Texas Tech, but they're not out of it, down 23-10. TCU on a 20-0 run as Yahya Marshall is intercepted again. The Heisman Trophy winner has not had himself a performance to remember in the playoffs. Johnson, the linebacker, with the interception, and TCU, who has been dominant ever since the Parks pick 6, has a chance to close things off here in the fourth quarter. They lead at 23-10. They've scored 20 unanswered points, and they're going to look to put the icing on the cake. Yeager has all day to throw it in the pocket, and he is intercepted to start the fourth. TJ Jetson with the interception, and Texas Tech gets a big defensive stop, but they have to score a touchdown here as Marshall goes downfield. What a throw! That's a more Heisman-like play. He gets it to Amari Green for 37 yards. This game's not over. If Texas Tech can get some energy on offense, they can really put themselves back in it. Dennis Look around with a gain of 14. Now a 2nd and goal for the Red Raiders. Handoff up the middle. Boston James is in with the touchdown. I know it's been rough for Texas Tech, but they're only down by 1 possession. It's now 23-17, and now TCU has to respond. On 2nd and 4, it's a handoff for Harry Stewart. Gets by multiple defenders and is pushed out inside the 40. He was already going out of bounds. You can make an argument that's a late hit as well. Following play, Yeager looks to throw it, dances in the pocket, and he connects with his tight end, Josh St. George, the top projected tight end in this year's NFL draft, with the first down. 3rd and 4. Now for TCU. Yeager looks to throw it. It's a screen for Dylan Wiggins. 1st and more. Wiggins gets it inside the 5. TCU knew they could really put themselves in a good spot here on this drive, and they are capitalizing as Yeager on 2nd and goal is in with the read option touchdown. So TCU marches down the field. They're right back up by 2 scores, and they're going to look to extend the lead even more, make it a clean 14-point game and go for 2, which they would convert. Texas Tech would be stopped on their following possession, and it is really not looking good for the Red Raiders. That's Roger Carter with the sack, his 3rd of the game. Carter had 5 against Notre Dame, so if you've been counting at home, that's 8 sacks for the sophomore here in the playoff, making himself a potential high NFL draft pick in the future. Harry Stewart breaks off a long touchdown run, and this game appears to be over. TCU is now up by 21. Texas Tech is hanging on for dear life, just trying to throw something at the wall and hope it works. And that's one way to do it. Debo Campbell with a long touchdown reception. Still a 2-score game, though. Now Texas Tech is going to have to grab the onside kick if they want any chance of winning, as it is going to be picked up by TCU. This one looks like it is over. The TCU Horned Frogs, who would have guessed, are moving to the Final Four. I guess I would have guessed because I actually called it in my bracket. I picked TCU to make it to the Final Four. I don't know why. I just had a gut feeling about this team, and I was proven correct. Texas Tech is a good squad, but TCU's got a lot of talent on paper. They're one of the hottest teams in the country. It really says something to be playing well over these last few weeks, and TCU, over the last third of the year, has been a better team than Texas Tech, even if the Red Raiders have been significantly better through the duration of the year. The big difference is that TCU ran like their hair was on fire, and Texas Tech ran like their whole bodies were on fire. Tegan Yeager was pretty solid. He had the interception in the fourth quarter, but through the most part, he was pretty good as a passer. Yeager was solid as a runner, but the real star at the show, Harry Stewart, 231 yards and a touchdown. This kid is different. I mean, there's no other way to say it. He's awesome. Josh St. George and Mustafa Diabate both with big plays, and then the defense was really good. Talk about stopping the Heisman Trophy winner. And Roger Carter, man, this kid is special. He originally went to Texas. He's a transfer from the Longhorns. I'm sure Texas wishes they still had him right about now, as he's playing himself to be a top 5 pick in the future. Yahya Marshall completed 85% of his passes, but he also threw 3 interceptions. Marshall wasn't terrible, but the turnovers were really costly, and I think that was one of the big differences of this game. Along with that, TCU really struggled up front. They could not run the ball. Their pass blocking was atrocious. Roger Carter basically ate all game long after he ate against Notre Dame. TCU won up front in the trenches, and I think that's one of the big reasons why they ended up winning this game here over Texas Tech. So with that, the 12-seeded TCU Horned Frogs continue to shock the world. They're moving into the Final Four. Who are they going to play against? Is it going to be our top overall seed, reigning national champions, the Ohio State Buckeyes? They're going to face off against the USC Trojans here at the Sugar Bowl for a spot in the Final Four against TCU. So we will start with Ohio State. They're the #1 overall seed in the entire tournament. They won the national championship last year. They brought back basically 90% of their championship team, and unsurprisingly, they are even better than they were a year ago. Puma Whitlock is the best quarterback in the country. Mookie Davis is the best running back in the country. They've got unbelievable receivers. They've got unbelievable offensive linemen. Their defense is top tier. They have the best point differential in the country. This team is the overwhelming favorite to win the national championship again. They lost back in week 2 against Oklahoma, the team who they beat in the national championship last season. But ever since then, they have been unbelievably dominant. They have won every game, and they have won it convincingly. I feel like we didn't give Ohio State a ton of attention throughout the year because none of their games were any good. They just killed everybody they played against, including Notre Dame, in the Big Ten Championship, and Notre Dame was undefeated up to that point. Puma Whitlock had the most efficient quarterback season I think I've ever seen, largely because he didn't have to throw the ball a lot. Ohio State was consistently up by 30 in the second half, so they were just able to run it down teams' throats, and the Buckeyes, as a result, had over 40 rushing touchdowns. That's 3.5 per game. That's basically a rushing touchdown per quarter. Defensively, they're strong, and obviously we know their offense is strong. But they've got an interesting challenge here today with USC. The Trojans are a very intriguing squad. USC upset Ohio State in the Big Ten Championship last year. They know what it takes to beat them. They played against Ohio State last year in the college football semifinals, and, well, obviously things did not go very well for them. USC is a very good team. Their only losses this year are against playoff teams, being Notre Dame and Florida. They beat Michigan State, another playoff team, and obviously they just beat Tennessee in the first round. USC was the much better team in that game. Obviously, we know Tennessee had the crazy comeback, but I think that comeback was more so because of Tennessee's brilliance rather than a USC choke. So I don't really give USC too much blame for nearly losing that game. And when it really came down to it, they had the game-winning drive and kicked the game-winning field goal. Amari August is a dynamic quarterback. Monty Bradley and Isaac Thomas are a great duo in the backfield. They've got a good young group of skill position players. They've got a young pass rush, and their secondary is filled with future NFL draft picks. I think this USC team is really good, and while they are the heavy underdogs in this game, I do think they have what it takes to beat Ohio State. I think it is a little bit of a long shot. Ohio State is basically the perfect team. The Buckeyes have the best team we have seen in this series, and I don't think it's very close, although Georgia in Season 1 does make an argument. But I think this Ohio State team could beat just about anybody put in front of them, and they've got an opportunity to become a dynasty and win their second straight championship. The road starts here. Can Ohio State truly become a dynasty, put themselves in the Final Four, and look to win another championship? Or can USC shock the world and get what I would think would be the biggest upset in the history of this series? It should be a fun one here at the Superdome at the All-State Sugar Bowl. A Big Ten clash. We'll see what Ohio State and USC can do. USC's got to set the tone early. If they fall behind, they're not winning this game point blank and period. Whitlock goes deep. It's incomplete, so USC gets the stop. That's a good start. They need to put the pedal to the metal early. Once Ohio State is up by multiple possessions, you're not going to stop them on the ground. Amari August takes a shot downfield on third down. Goddamn, he's got a strong arm. But it's broken up by the secondary. That was Cassius Gobo who made the play. So Ohio State gets it back. Failed possessions for both teams to start the game as Whitlock tosses it for Mookie Davis. Davis, what a run! He gets it to the 25. I voted Mookie Davis first for the Heisman Trophy. He averaged close to 8 yards a carry this year. I mean, this kid is absolutely ridiculous. Puma on 3rd and 11 with a strike for Kermit Wiltz, who gets the touchdown. I know Ohio State was up by 30 all year, so you didn't have to see Puma Whitlock make some big throws, but in case you forgot, this kid can make big throws. So the Buckeyes are on the board. They lead 7-0. USC has it back with a 3rd and 14. August under pressure. He is sacked for a loss of 4. Austin Moore, the nickel corner, brings him down. Ohio State gets it back on 1st and 10. Here's Puma Whitlock up the middle. Look at him go. Puma Whitlock is an unbelievable athlete, showing off his speed, and just what USC did not need to happen. The Buckeyes are up big again. It's now 14-0. USC has to start their comeback now, or else it's never going to happen. 3rd and 11. August looks to throw it with a strike downfield. Good pass into the hands of the tight end, Squeezy Pryor-Escobar, the cousin of Tennessee Titans wide receiver Hot Rod Pryor. Good play there for USC, but they've got to keep it going. 3rd and 4 now. August looks to throw it, and he has no time whatsoever. Sacked on the play by Casey Bailey, the veteran pass rusher. That was really not on August. He had literally no time to get rid of the ball. So Ohio State gets it back. They're up big. They're looking to extend the lead even more. Puma Whitlock with a strike, and this one will bring the Buckeyes inside the 40. It's Auden Green with a gain of about 41 yards. Now into the red zone early in the 2nd quarter. It's a read option. Puma will keep it, and he trucks the defender for a score. Yeah, this one might get ugly, folks. It's now 21-0. The Buckeyes are dominating just as they have throughout the entire season. It's another day in the office for Ohio State. And unsurprisingly, the moment is not too big for them, just as it wasn't too big for them last year. Puma Whitlock will be intercepted here, though, by Sergio Jimenez. That's just the 4th interception that Whitlock has thrown all season. Could this be the play that USC gets momentum? No, because they're running the ball up the middle on 3rd and 11. Monty Bradley does not get much. USC has not been able to run the ball at all today. That is their strength. Ohio State, on the other hand, has been running it down their throats. Puma Whitlock, another big run for a 1st down. Now inside the red zone, 3rd and 9 for the Buckeyes. Puma Whitlock with a strike, and it is broken up. That was a good throw, but the receiver was unable to hold on to it. So USC gets another stop. Their defense is starting to play a little bit better, but it's not really going to matter. You know, they can't score points. Kick is good, and it is now 24-0 in favor of the Ohio State Buckeyes. USC gets it back late in the 1st half, just trying to get anything going before halftime, as on 1st and 10. August dances around in the pocket with a nice little run. Good play by August, and he fumbles the ball. Yeah, that's the type of day it has been for USC. The Trojans are a really good team, and they are just getting smacked by Ohio State, 24-0. The Buckeyes are the best team in the country. I don't know how anybody can beat this team. USC would get the ball early in the 2nd half, and they would bring it all the way to the red zone, but they'd be unable to score a touchdown as they get stopped on 3rd and 10. If nothing else, the shutout is no more, and they have some points, as it's now 24-3. Ohio State will get the ball back with another opportunity to extend the lead even farther. They have driven it all the way down the field here, looking to make it a 4-possession ball game. 1st down for the Bucks. It's going to be a QB keeper, and Puma Whitlock gets rocked. He loses the ball, and it's picked up by USC. Puma Whitlock got hit so hard on that play that he bruised his sternum and will not return to the game. He should be fine, assuming Ohio State wins and moves on, but that certainly sucks. He's nothing else. He's probably going to be a little bit banged up going into the Final Four game, again, assuming Ohio State wins. USC knows a thing or two about big comebacks, as we saw last week with Tennessee nearly coming back down by 3 scores against them. On 3rd and 16, they only gain around 7. Another stop for Ohio State. USC would punt it. Ohio State would bring it all the way into the red zone, looking to potentially ice the game here with a 3rd and 4. Ramir Conwell, the backup running back, is in for a score. And if this game was not already over, I think it is fair to say that the Ohio State Buckeyes will most likely be moving on to the Final Four. They're up 31-3, and that'll be your final. Ohio State just completely annihilates USC. And again, the Trojans are not a bad team at all. They absolutely deserve to make the playoffs. They won 10 games. They beat a really tough Tennessee squad. If Tennessee was in this game, I think they would have got killed too. Ohio State is just that good, and I'm not sure if anybody, even Washington, has a real shot of beating this team. Ohio State had to beat some great teams last year like Florida and Oklahoma to win the championship, and truthfully, they just look even better this year. As we look at the numbers, Puma Whitlock was not on his A game as a passer. Again, he didn't have to throw the ball a whole lot because Ohio State was up by 20 in the entire second half. Puma was a monster on the ground, so is Mookie Davis. Ohio State is just going to continue to run the ball down teams' throats. Although I will say, I think TCU could prevent Ohio State with a bad matchup because TCU's got a really good front. They've got a really good run defense. So I think that could give Ohio State some trouble. Amari August didn't make too many mistakes. It's not the reason why the team lost. I mean, there's no real reason other than that Ohio State is just better. There's not really a whole lot that USC could have done. Great season here for the Trojans, but once again, just like last year, they will lose to Ohio State in the second round. So with that, we are down to 4. The number 1 seed Ohio State will face off against the 12-seeded TCU for a spot in the national championship. I know it looks like a really tough feat for TCU, but last year, the number 12 seed beat the number 1 seed to move on to the championship, so it is very possible. On the flip side, we've got Washington and Auburn, 2 teams who have not made it to the playoff in this series, unlike Ohio State and TCU, who of course are our 2 most recent national champions. So in the next episode, obviously we will cover both Final Four games, Ohio State versus TCU, and then Washington versus Auburn, but we will also be going through the national championship. We'll be wrapping up the entirety of the college football playoff in the next episode. I hope you guys are ready because it is going to be a whole lot of fun. We're going to be able to crown our 4th champion of the series. Could it be a repeat champion with Ohio State or TCU? Or will it be a new champion with Washington or Auburn? That'll wrap up the episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. A really fun one. We had some wild games. Obviously, Washington and Cal was a total blast. And the other 3 games had their moments as well. Maybe not the Ohio State game. That was ugly. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Peace out.